Hello and welcome to that time of the week where I talk all about what Tinto Talks has been talking about. And before we get into it, of course, if you would like to keep up to date and informed about everything coming out of Tinto and their Project Caesar EU5 game, then the best way to do that is, of course, to hit the subscribe button and notifications, and then you'll be informed, because I am not going to stop covering this game. I'm very excited. I hope you guys are too, and with that out of the way, let us drop straight in to the Cannon Maker with today's, or I guess for me, yesterday's Saturday building. Cannon Maker is a building that will be appearing in the Age of Renaissance. Again, ages will be a part of Project Caesar, and I think this building is exceptionally interesting. First of all, it requires burgers to be built. It can be built only in towns and cities. That's what these two are. And I believe the apple means it can be upgraded. I think that is what we've seen before. From my understanding, you will have to choose both a barrel method and an ammunition method, not just the one of them, is as far as I understand. And the goods that you will be using to create your cannons are pretty varied, and I'll go through which goods they are here as well. Obviously, we have lumber, we have iron, we have metalworks, we have copper and tin. I guess this is for the bronze cannons. Iron again with metalworks. We have steel here. I believe this is the first time we have seen steel. For ammunition methods, of course, we have stone for your cheapest version of ammunition, I guess. And we are mixing this with saltpeter, which is basically the biggest building block for gunpowder, which does make me think that gunpowder itself will not be a good. And this being saltpeter is something that was confirmed by Johan in the comments. Then we have lead, and then once again we have iron. I saw a little bit of confusion as to, why would we ever, make any ammunition? Why don't we just use the barrel method? I think that is because you do have to choose both. And it is basically all a case of what do you have available to you in your country. 0.1 cannons for these goods might seem like a pretty naff deal, but metalworking at the start of the game, probably not going to have too much of. You're probably going to have quite a lot of lumber, and iron you don't need too much of either. Later in the game, when you have steel and metalworking coming out the wazoo, obviously you're going to be wanting a lot more cannons, and therefore that's where you're going to get those from. Ammunition methods similarly, basically choose what it is you have the best of. There's one thing I am a little bit unsure of, and that is, are the different versions of the barrel method, the ammunition method, is that going to impact your statistics in battles? And I don't see a way that would be the case, which is a little bit worrying for me. I don't want to see a situation like there is in Victoria 3, of course, because that warfare system is terrible. But in Victoria 3, when you upgraded to new types of units, all it basically meant, or new types of guns in your research, all it meant was that you got more small arms, instead of those small arms actually being better and doing more damage in combat. You just basically had more of them. Technology for guns and rifles in that game is simply a case of production efficiency rather than actual combat efficiency, which is obviously not good. I don't want to see that. I am curious as to how this is going to work out. If I choose, steel barrels with lead ammunition, are those individual cannon units going to do more damage or be more reliable or be better than if I had chosen wooden barrels or bronze barrels with stone ammunition? I would like to know that, and maybe we will get that information at some point. I hope so. But yes, it is a curiosity. And of course, here I brought us back to Tinto Talks number 11, where we can see, of course, you will be required to have maintenance and upkeep of goods for various units. So maybe it'll be a case of if the maintenance here will be more cannons for, better units. But at the same time, more cannons is not, I have super many bronze cannons, and that's apparently as good as steel. I don't want to see that, but we'll see how it goes. But moving on into the Tinto Maps post, of course. Sorry, I'll move to here first. This is a map of the markets, which was forgotten to be posted in the Poland map thread. Of course, we have the Krakow market, Riga market, Novgorod market, Kiev market, and then the Praha market down there as well. Good stuff. I don't think there is anything too surprising here. There's nothing that stands out as like, oh my god, I can't believe that they've done this. There was a bit of controversy, of course, over the naming of the Kiev market, the Kiev country, and also the location. Because of course there is, but I don't know, those guys can sit and spin. I don't care about them. Let us move into the Tinto Maps post. Shouldn't Poland start with an alliance, or at least inheritance pact with Hungary? There is some content related to the Union of Crowns with Hungary. Perfect. Honestly, this is just there to say, yes, there is content. We already knew there would be content, but it's nice to get a little bit of information about what kind of content we can hopefully expect to see. How will the game handle things like Ostlizung? This is the German settlement into Slavic lands. Obviously, as a fan of Prussia, I'd like to Germanize it, but Johan specifically stated the population is only going to feature in the background. So, there is content portraying the German migrations to the east. Old Prussians are covered, but under the West Baltic culture. Talking about the cultures there as well. Why is Memel not a square? Great. I mean, game in the bin, right? Let's be honest. All this hype that we've had, completely crushed. Square Memel. Why is it not a thing? I'm devastated. I'm devastated. Honestly, let's go. Is Livonian Order a vassal of Teutons? Initially, Pavia said no, they're independent orders, but then later, obviously, came back and pointed out that no, the Livonian Order does start as a vassal of the Teutonic Order. Also, I will correct myself. I don't know why I said this. I believe it was a slip of the tongue or a brain glitch. But I also stated in the Tinto Maps post that Lithuania was a vassal of the Poland. No, obviously, no. I don't know why I stated that. I believe it was just a slip of the tongue. I didn't believe that at the time when I said it. I didn't even notice that I had said it until the comments had pointed out that I had said it. Yeah, sorry, I guess. I make mistakes too. But yes, Livonians do start as a vassal of the Teutonic Order, and Lithuania does not. You have a question a few weeks ago when we saw Iberia, particularly the Zaragoza and Sacastra. Will we have, I don't know why I clicked that, will we have dynamic location names for all countries in the game? No, that's way too deep. That is way too deep. Having dynamic location names for every single location, which is 27,000 for every country, culture that happens to be able to conquer it. No, that's particularly crazy. They will focus on covering historical naming as much as possible, and they doubt they'll be able to cover all the possible combinations. As you might notice, they have a lot of locations and a lot of cultures. Again, something that had come up in the thread was, of course, the issue of Kiev. And I think the best way of really representing that would be to whoever controls that location would have a different name for that location. The Polish call it I can't pronounce Polish, but there's a W in there and there's an O probably somewhere. If the Ruthenians own it, then Kiev or Kievu, something like that. And then if a Muscovite owns it, then the old spelling of Kiev would be the most accurate, I guess. Of course, like I said, there was a bunch of controversy and a several-page long thread. But I think that's probably the best situation, and yeah, that's my stance at least. He only sees Silesian culture, which he assumes represents the Slavic people living there. However, during the game's time frame, the Silesian region was shaped by German Silesians just as much. Will they be represented? So, spoiler, I guess. I don't think this is a spoiler. This is just information at this point. There are Silesian, Slavic-speaking, and German Silesian cultures in the game. Good to know for the Silesians out there. Back to isms, are we? This is something that I pointed out. Catholicism, Orthodoxism, that's not a thing. But Sunnism, they all, in the Tinto Maps thread, got changed back to the isms after we saw that they were not going to be. But literally, the screenshot was taken on a version where that wasn't the case. That change hadn't been made yet. So we are going to see Catholic, Sunni, Orthodox instead of Catholicism, Sunnism, Orthodoxy. Do the vassals seem to have a different colour depending on the degree of autonomy? Nope, they are just slightly different, so we can tell the difference between them. Good to know. What's amber used for? Is it a luxury good? It might be used in a building that Johan will show in a Saturday building. It wasn't this one, so we'll have to wait and see what amber is used for. Is it possible to rename locations and provinces? Yes, it is. This shouldn't come as too much of a shock to most people, but it was a shock that we couldn't do it in Imperator Rome, especially as that was a time when a lot of cities were founded by a certain Alexander, but we couldn't rename cities there. So was strange there, but we will be able to rename them here, which is good news. Here at the end of the maps post, Pavi just basically giving a thank you to people for their feedback. It's great to see the good reception that Tinto Maps has had. I will also point out, for me, it's great to see the reception that my map posts have had. Very excited about that. Reading such warm messages keeps us pushing forward. Secondly, just by reading all the posts, we're aware that there's plenty of room to improve the region. We'll work hard to review the region according to this feedback and make it even better and fulfill your expectations about it. This is so heartwarming to see. And again, I just gotta reiterate again, and again, if you have more historical knowledge about a certain region that is shown, feel free to show it. You know, your feedback will be taken on board and acted upon if you can source your claims, I guess. And if you do that, expect to see what you have found in the game. Moving on, though, to the Tinto Talks number 14 about situations. They released it at 1453. Not only did they release it on at 1453, they released it on the bloody 29th of May, which is it's one of those days, you know. It's just one of those days that is wait, wasn't it the 28th of May? Wasn't it the 28th of May? No, I was wrong. It is in fact the 29th of May. So that was rude of them. That was rude. It is what it is. I believe the Saturday building was also posted at 13:37 local time. So you know, he's having fun. He's having fun. I'll let him off this time. But don't do it again. It's rude and painful. So, with the Black Death being a situation, does that mean there are no other plagues? I don't know why you would believe this. Or is it just a special one that's bigger than the others? The Black Death uses one of the diseases, and we will see this being clarified with future comments as well. But yeah, Black Death is a situation. Other diseases, it doesn't look like will be situations. So, yes, that is that. It doesn't mean we'll be able to obfuscate information, so we wouldn't be able to know right off the bat that the planned war target has exactly an amount of stuff. In theory, yes, not sure it's applied everywhere. I really, really want this to be a thing. I made a thread about it myself, actually, and it is something that I have, let's say, campaigned for, crusaded about one could say. When Imperator came out, there was a particularly egregious example of uh, unobfuscated information, in that we could calculate the exact date of death of characters because we knew their health down to the 0.01%, and we knew how much they were losing every single month. So we knew their date of death, which obviously kind of stupid or silly to know that. So I basically asked for that to be changed. I wanted more obfuscated information, and we got more obfuscated information. I think I did something similar with CK3, but my memory there is a bit more spotty. Something to do with character health got changed there as well, which is I'm going to take all of the credit for that because I want to. But I think the same should be true for EU5. I think that we should have the ability to gain information, like how much they're going to be able to raise in levies, how much manpower, etc. But I think that should be a part of some kind of espionage system, because I definitely think an espionage system is going to be in the game. And this is the way that I could foresee it being quite nice. I believe Hearts of Iron has something along the lines of the more spyness. I don't play the game, so I'm sorry, but I believe there's something along the lines of the more intelligence you have on an enemy, the more accurate your information is. So you would see at a medium amount of intelligence that they have between 50 and 75 regiments, and as you get more and more accurate information, that that boundary will close, and you'll be able to know exactly how many troops your enemy has. That is something I would love to see for Project Caesar. I think it would give a lot more emphasis on using your diplomats for espionage, I guess. Because I'm fully sure that is going to be in the game in some fashion, so that's kind of how I would like to see it. After Emperor Dusan, this is Serbian's death, his son was a weak ruler and incapable of holding the Serbian Empire together, leading it to fraction into a dozen states. Maybe that could be the situation. That is a disaster, as it's mostly about a single country. Johan clarifies a bunch here, and I haven't included all of them because it's basically the same thing. When people are coming up with ideas for what situations they think could be a thing, but they only affect a single country, that's a disaster. A situation is something that affects multiple countries, and is some sort of like narrative weave for a bunch of countries to act upon the same situation. Pretend I used a better word there. Would something as large as the African slave trade or triangle trade be a situation? It would be purely mechanics. I do not envy the devs when they get to talking about the African slave trade. I think any time that you include population systems and a way of doing this, there's going to be some kind of controversy, because it is still a very controversial and hot issue. The ramifications of this are still very intimately felt to this day. So I feel like there is going to be controversy. I don't envy them. I'm looking forward to seeing how these mechanics play out. But yeah, that's gonna be Tinto talk for sure. Will the Evangelical League use a different system? The Wars of Religion would in fact fit. Yes. Is there a way to turn off the Black Death? Yes, you turn it off in the settings. Again, I'm not sure I entirely enjoy the idea that you can turn off the Black Death. I don't think I don't know. I feel like the game is going to be balanced around the population numbers at the start of the game and the population. The game will be made knowing the fact that their Black Death will occur, and then the population will decrease kind of incredibly, especially in Europe. I think removing that is going to lead to quite a lot of problems. I don't see that being an especially amazing option. Though I do think, I have been convinced that a randomized Black Death would be a good option. Basically, instead of it, appearing in a certain location historically, then it would in fact appear in a random location, and not at the exact date, but it would appear at a random date within reason. That I'm totally fine with. I think that would be kind of good for multiplayer, especially. And that might be the option that I use for my future multiplayer games in EU5. I don't think I'm ever going to turn it off, though. That doesn't seem like a good idea to me. We've seen that already. Obviously, we'll have to wait until we can play the game, but it sounds really cool. I agree. Can't wait to see the different possibilities. Imagine they're fully and partially moddable. It is 100% moddable, which is awesome. I love that. I am a big fan of mods, as you may or may not know. So seeing what, especially the Anbana team, can cook up with situations, so very, very pleased with that. Will there be plenty of these situations throughout the ages in the game? Yes, there will be. Good to know. It's great for allowing complicated issues, diplomatic dances for sure, but using the same mechanic to represent the Black Death rather than the dedicated plague system is an odd choice. So, immersion and a narrative, as it was far more impactful than a normal disease. The Colombian exchange is another situation, which is also, I'm very, very pleased to see that. Colombian exchange, horses to the New World, potatoes to the Old World, and more, obviously. So yeah, having that as a situation is going to be interesting. Which is, Black Death is far more impactful than most just general diseases. So generic diseases will have a system, but the Black Death, that can be a situation, because we have a serious problem and situation. Yes, indeed. There is no daimyos on the map. Of course, we saw in the Tinto map that a little bit of the island that Japan inhabits, daimyos are redacted and something we'll talk about later this year. This literally could mean anything. This could mean we're not finished doing the Japan setup and it will be broken up in the same way as we have in EU4, or it might mean they're unified but they have something going on that eventually will split them into the various shogunates. We will find out. I'm looking forward to it, though. Japan is obviously a very popular region, so people will be hoping to have some very, very interesting mechanics there to play around with. How many situations are currently added? 13 are fully finished, and they have ideas and plans for many more. This is something I need to keep reiterating as well. The Tinto talks are not showcasing mechanics of a future pie-in-the-sky version of the game that they're thinking about. Everything that we're being shown is things that currently exist in the game as they are able to play it right now, today. If it is shown in a Tinto talk, it is in the game, functional. Probably not bug-free, but functional. Things that are ideas that they're going to implement in a future version of Project Caesar are not being shown yet. So I do think that's important. I do need to keep reiterating that because, yeah, it's kind of colossal. It is kind of colossal. I have seen people state on various comments in my videos and also on the forums that this looks cool, but this is clearly DLC stuff. It's not. It's something in the game. It's going to be huge. It's super deep. Are revolutions situations like the French one? Yes, that is the plan, to have the French Revolution be a situation. Would colonial independence movements be a situation? It is an idea that they have. I like this. Colonial independence is generally not something that you have to suffer through in EU4. So having this be a situation, I think, is a great idea. Would stuff like the Reformation or the discovery of the New World be classified as a situation? Reformation is. The discovery of the New World was done by Leif Erikson about 337 years before the start of the game. Yeah, okay, Johan. But, I mean, you know what he meant. You know he meant Mr. Columbus, my man. So why? I guess he wasn't ready to talk about it. Fair enough. Do all states gain instant knowledge of the Black Death, and are we able to act against it? No. By no, I believe he means no, we don't gain instant knowledge of the Black Death. But I do think there is going to be ways to act against it, as we saw in the actual Tinto talk. We can actually go and see about that here. Isolate the core, expel the sick, blame the minorities, and other very efficient ways to deal with the problem. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. We're not going to be able to just stop the Black Death. That's quite silly. Are there general situations that can happen to any country, like an interregnum or civil war? Nope, those are basically called game mechanics. Situations are big historical narratives involving multiple countries. And this is really the big thing to take away from this. If you have an idea for a situation, but it only affects one country, that's not a situation. That is mechanics or a disaster. Do you mean just the Spain, like the one in real life, Castile or Aragon, can be achieved by other nations? Basically, who can form Spain? The idea is for any Iberian Christian nation to be able to unify Spain, and Granada will be able to form Al-Andalus if it conquers Christian lands. I think they were talking about some kind of situation of who forms Spain. Yeah, it is. For the Italian Wars, what happens if no party wins to 70%? It doesn't think historically any party controlled as much. It will eventually end. A stalemate ending is possible, which I guess would favour more the Italian countries than the foreign powers. No disrespect to the devs, but I think it's the safer choice to focus on situations from actual history that people are familiar with than come up with a large amount of fantasy situations that are valid in certain circumstances. And Johan agrees. Players want to see an Ottoman Empire and a strong Russia, and they want to experience the Reformation and wars of religion. Players want their choices to change history. He's been doing the games for 25 years, and many times he's been suckered in by, we can simulate everything, we don't need narrative guidelines, only for the game launches to be rocky and having to readjust to make sure historical narratives are happening often enough. This seems very pointed, and I have seen many comments to the tune of, we don't want railroading, we don't want any form of railroading, no journal entries, no mission trees, no... I've seen people say that they don't want dynamic historical events. This is how crazy it has gotten for some people. They just want the mechanics to live on their own, and then what will happen, and clearly if the mechanics are good enough, then actual real history will follow through right throughout the game, and you know the world in 1836 will look identical to real life if the mechanics are good enough. No. No. God himself could not provide mechanics to that depth in which to get to that situation. There are so many things where, frickin' butterfly effect, it's not... You need to have this woven tapestry throughout the game, this, narrative, with events, with situations, with international organizations. It can't just be pure mechanics, or you're not really creating a historical game. You're creating a historical sandbox. You're creating a story generator, which could be nice, Not story generators are great, Dwarf Fortress story generator, that is pure mechanics, all right? But that's very different. You can't really compare the two. I think having these narrative guidelines throughout the game is awesome. And again, Johan's saying he's done the games for 25 years, and many times he's been suckered in by simulation everything. Don't need narrative guidelines. But again, it's that no, you need to go away. He has again learned from mistakes that he has made in the past, and he's making changes based on those. Everything is pointing to this game being just the best version of a grand strategy game that we could possibly get, and learning the lessons of previous games is definitely the way to go with that. So I am entirely in favor of this. And these people here who dislike mission trees, who dislike situations, dislike narrative events, you're wrong. Go play Vicky 3 or something. May also the power struggle between the Pope and the Emperor would fit. Yes, that is the Guelphs and Ghibellines. Of course, that will fit into situations because that is multiple countries. I first learned of the Guelphs and Ghibellines. I can't even remember which one. I think it's the Guelphs for the Pope and the Ghibellines for the Hitchery. I don't know. It's basically should Italy be in the Empire or not? But that is of course the situation as well. Good to know. The Black Death situation is using generic disease mechanics, but with more stuff to flesh it out and make it as impactful as it was in real life. Yes. Yeah. If we went down the path of pure mechanics, then the Black Death would just be a generic disease, and you would have just generic events about, oh, there's a disease, and my people are dying. Like that influenza event in EU4, the one that everyone fucking hates. That's what it would be like without a narrative weave. If I let the plague break out somewhere else, would America be okay? This is basically choosing the options for where the Black Death was going to break out, as I was saying earlier. If the Black Death origin random option is chosen, then the outbreak will start in Europe or Asia, so Lisbon or Kyoto, but not in Tenochtitlan. Black Death will always be in the old world, even with the random option. I think that's probably what I'm going to use for multiplayer, although I still feel like historical is probably the way to go. I really do. So, a random date, sure. A random location, I don't know about that one. But finally, more under the hood question. Since situations are not hard-coded and very variable, how do you ensure the AIs are able to navigate their custom mechanics effectively to make the best of them instead of flailing semi-randomly? And I just thought this response here was very, very interesting. The AI can look at the building blocks that they use, and it's a very powerful system at the core. One of the main issues with EU4's AI later on in the game was to do with the mission trees. The AI couldn't do mission trees. If they managed to complete anything, it was purely by random, but they couldn't look at the requirements for a mission and then decide, okay, I am going to move my country in such a direction that I can do this mission. It just wasn't possible. They were historically fucking terrible at it. But if EU5 wants to improve on the AI, and clearly it does, then letting the AI look at various things under the bonnet, under the hood, look at the building blocks of the game, that is a very exciting prospect. We may be in for a very good AI in EU5, and I know there's the argument of, well, do the players really want a good AI? Would that not make them, frustrated? I don't care. I want that to be an option. I want them to be able to play the game, and without cheats, just with, the same tools that the player is able to use. And we'll go from there. But if the AI is a very powerful system, that's great from me. But that is also all from me. I would like to remind you again that if you would like to keep up to date with all news and updates coming out of Tinto for Project Caesar, then hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, drop me a like. It actually does help out with engagement and such. And any thoughts and feelings you have about anything that I have mentioned in this video, or future videos, or literally anything, it's still engagement, it still helps me out, then drop me a comment as well. I will be back on Wednesday with the next Tinto Talks, which I've forgotten what it's going to be about. Something that many people have asked about repeatedly. Alright, here's your task. In the comment section, what have people been asking about repeatedly? What are we going to see? I'd like to know your thoughts. And I will see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.